What up, what up? Welcome back to the channel. I'm J, and this is the first episode of Them on Amazon. Now, this show focuses on the black migration to California in the 1950s with a little spin of horror. Now, bear with me. This first episode might be a little bit longer because I'm going to have to explain everything. Now, it's a lot of twists in this show, and man, when I tell you it's interesting, but it's a lot, so bear with me. But before we jump into the episode, I gotta do the YouTube stuff. Shout out to the notification gang. If you're new to the channel, you want to be a part of this, hit the subscribe button, turn on your notification bell so you get something every time I upload. Hit the like button. We need to get that engagement up, and we on that road to 5,000 subscribers. But this show, it focuses on a family of 4 that moved to California from North Carolina. It's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of flashbacks that go forward in the time, but it all pieces together and makes sense. So I'm going to try to explain it to you the best way as possible, because don't nobody break a show down like I break a show down. But let's jump into it. Episode 1 of Them. We start the show off, and it's showing us North Carolina. It looks hot outside, and then we have Lucky. Lucky is the mom, one of our main characters, and she's feeding her son some peaches. And you know, you just in there with your child, you're hanging out. Oh, mommy's here, mommy's here. But all of a sudden, she hears something, and it makes her go out the front door. When she goes outside, there's an older lady out here singing, and their dog, Sergeant, runs out there, and it's just being playful with the lady. So Lucky's asking, are you lost? What are you doing around here? And the lady's like, oh, I'm not lost. Oh, is that your son in there? And at this moment, Lucky's like, wait a minute. Some random old white lady is asking about my son that I don't know. Ma'am, you need to get up out of here and up off our property right now. So, of course, Lucky's like, I got to go in here, lock down. My dog is here. It's just me and my son. She tells old lady, get out of here. My husband's on his way back, you know. And she says, wait. The guy that left with 2 little girls about an hour ago. So this lady's been watching the house. And Lucky, she's like, oh, let me get in the house and lock it down, because it's a crazy white woman singing some song that her dad used to sing to her. And we're in North Carolina in the 50s. This isn't a place to be in an argument or any conversation with some white woman, especially one you don't know. Lucky runs in the house, and we look down the street, and there's 3 random dudes coming back with the dog. So things aren't looking good for Lucky. She gets up in that house ASAP and locks the doors. Then boom, Lucky wakes up and they're in the car. Now, we don't know if this dream is of something that really happened or she's just dreaming, but we get to meet the whole family now. Of course, we have Lucky as the mom. Henry is the father. In the back seat, we have Ruby and we have Gracie, the daughters. Now, we don't get to see the little boy, so I don't know if this is a dream or if it never even really happened. But they're headed to California on the Great Migration. They're actually moving to Compton. And yes, people, Compton was a white neighborhood originally. Then gentrification came and it pushed everybody out, which they're going to get into. But they're moving to Compton. They have family members out in Watson. At this point, Compton is the place to be. Not only do we get a good show, we also get a Black history lesson. I did mention that they focus this on the black migration. So between 1916 and 1970, roughly 6 million African Americans relocated from the rural southern United States to Northeast, Midwest, and the West. This was widely known as the Great Migration. Many black families were drawn to California by the promise of industrial jobs and the chance to leave the Jim Crow South behind. Now, we know California is one of the most open states and accepting people. So moving from Southern America out here for a new start, why not? On September 14th, 1953, Henry and Livia, aka Lucky Emery, moved their family from Chatham County, North Carolina to Compton, California. Yeah, Compton, California. It's not the Compton we know today, but Compton, California. We finally arrived to the neighborhood. Before the Emery family gets there, we get to meet one of the neighbors across the street, is Miss Betty. Now, she goes outside because she sees the realtor taking the sold sign out of the yard, and she's wondering, who's moving over here? Because this is the community watch. Back then in the 50s, the women, they stayed at home, the men went to work. So they were the ones that watched the neighborhood, and they were pretty much the gossip of the town. So they wanted to know, who's moving in that house across the street? Because I know it's been hard to try to sell that, but who's moving over there? And Betty, she seems like she's going to stick her nose into everybody's business. They pull up to LA and they're looking around like, oh, we ain't never seen no big cities like this. LA, woo, this is the place to be. The girls are looking outside. They're seeing movie theaters. They're seeing real stores and stuff because they grew up in rural North Carolina. So when they get here, you got Lucky smoking a cigarette because that was the thing of the 50s. She's smoking a cigarette. The dad is happy because we have a new life, a new beginning. He has a new job, about to make some more money, got a house. Hey, we live in the American dream, up and out the rural area. They think they're leaving the segregation and everything alone. It's a new beginning in California, yay. And I live out in the beautiful state of California myself. As they leave downtown LA and they actually get into Compton, you can see the mood on Henry's face start to change. He's starting to drive around like, what's going on here? Because all these good white folk, they in their yard cutting their grass and watering and smoking cigarettes, and they're looking like, what's this color doing on this neighborhood? Y'all seeing this? People taking their kids in the house because there ain't no colors that come around this block. But you can see that there's still segregation and the whites still don't want to be next to the blacks. So it's going to be a tough time for them moving up in here. Now, all the women, they show up to Betty's house for their little neighborhood watch and their little wine session. Now, they start looking out the window because Betty told them, hey, the house across the street is sold. Now, they all come over here and they're looking out the window and they're like, oh, I hope they got a kid of my son's age so he can have a friend. But when they look out there, they see Henry step out and they're like, oh, my God, a Negra? Come on, man. How did he get over here? Whispers. Oh, my God, there goes the neighborhood. These white folk don't want us over there. But, hey, my boy Henry got a good job. He can afford this house. He deserves every right to live there and to live comfortably. Y'all get off my boy Henry's back. Henry gets here and he's talking to the realtor. He introduces his family. This is Ruby Jean. This is Grace. This is my wife, Lucky. And if you see behind, we got the neighborhood watch, Betty and them. She sold that to black folk. So y'all already know how this is about to turn out. This is about to be crazy in Compton. Now, just thinking back about the little dream that Lucky had, it kind of has her PTSD. In her dream, there was a white woman that came out of nowhere. Now she's looking at 4 white women. So this might be something to pay attention to, because this might be like, hey, this is a triggering thing. Seeing all these white women and they're looking at her like, why are you here? And she's looking at them like, why are y'all looking at me? I live here. And you can tell this is hurting Betty. She's definitely not interested in having black folk living across the street. When she looks out her window, she's expecting to see a happy white family over there. She doesn't want to see no blacks. So she's looking at her paint like, oh man, there goes the neighborhood. Our house is about to depreciate. They get in the house. Henry, he's open-minded about it. I got a new life. We got a new job. We got a house. Lucky says, oh, it looks bigger than this. The girls, of course, they want to see their room. And she's like, are you sure about this? And Henry's like, look, I bought this house for us to start fresh, so let's make the best of it. All of a sudden, the dog Sergeant runs up out the room to some door that we don't even know what's over there. Now, the kids, they were seeing their room, and of course, the youngest child, Gracie, she runs with the dog. And she's like, what are you looking at? And the dog is trying to get at something. Now, we don't know what's behind this door, but the dog is very interested in figuring out what is down there. Now, it turns out that this is a basement door. And now the realtor's saying, hey, you guys are lucky because basements around here, they're not common. Most of these houses are just 1-story flats. You know, you go in the house, you can see one end of the house to the other house to the other end, and they don't have basements or they don't have a second floor. But this house, it does have a basement. So we need to keep an eye on that basement because we know basements in horror films, they don't do any good for the family. Now they're going over the contract for the house, and this is interesting. There's a section that says none of these houses in Compton whose blood isn't entirely white or pure, it cannot be sold to Negro blood. So Lucky's looking at it like, are you serious? Like, what is this? Henry, you knew about this? And Henry's like, yeah, I did know about it. And the realtor says, oh, you don't have to worry about it. And she draws an X to it. So this is why the whole neighborhood is looking like, why is there blacks here? They're not supposed to be here. Our homeowners association, like, we can't sell these houses to blacks. But the realtor's like, nah, that's not the law no more. They can't enforce this anymore. So you guys are good. But this just shows you it's still going to be hostility moving into this house. The news spread like like wildfire. Everybody on the block, they sitting outside. What y'all think they doing in there? Y'all think those monkeys are gonna live here long? So no one in the neighborhood wants any black folk living here, especially with the rule that they put in place that you can't sell the house to Negroes. And people, this is day one of the 10-day adventure we're about to have here in Compton. Lucky's looking out the window like, oh my goodness, what are we in for? Now everybody's sitting outside, it's dark outside. Lucky, she like, the hell with that. I'm loading this thing up. And y'all know me, whenever I do a reaction, I love shows that have action in it. But she's loading that gun because you know in North Carolina, when those white folk come out in front of your house in the 1950s, they ain't coming to play. They trying to throw some fire. They trying to do anything they can to terrorize you and get you out of here. And Lucky said, I'm getting prepared for it first. I'm pulling out that same 4-5 and sprinkle and spray your ride. You come up in here. Lucky's up loading up the gun because there's fireworks going off. So pretty much these people are messing with the family, the Emery family. Henry gets up and he talks to her and she's bringing up, we could have moved somewhere else. We didn't have to move here with no Negro blood. And he's like, if we would have went to Watts, that's where the white folk want us. They want us all to be in Watts. Our family members didn't choose that. They got pushed there because they want to keep all the blacks in one area. They don't own Compton. We could live here and any black person would fight and kill to have a house that we have. So Henry is a highly educated man and he knows how the system works. So he got a good job. He moved his family from where they were at. He got a house and he's trying to tell her, look, I'm gonna make the best of what we have. This is a better opportunity for our family moving forward. Our neighborhood watch led by Betty all come outside with folding chairs and radio and they see the milkman coming. Everybody like, oh, hey, milkman. But then they're like, oh, we forget he only has the hots for Betty. And she gives a little wave. So we're going to have to watch out for this little relationship with Betty and this milkman. This is day 2. Betty organized the whole neighborhood watch of wives. And what do they do with these chairs and fold-up tables they have? They set them down in the middle of the road and they all turn radios on. So what they're trying to do is just nag, nag, and nag. Now, these women, they're, of course, stay-at-home wives, so they don't have anything to do but just sit outside and terrorize this good folk. Henry, he done brought his family out here, and this is what they got to deal with on day 2. Come on, man. It's early, too. Betty in the neighborhood watch outside. Henry's getting up. He's like, man, we got to get the girls dressed. First day of school. Ruby's talking about, I don't have any clothes. And he's like, look, you got some clothes in there. But when he gets in the room, Miss Lucky sitting in there. She has a drink early. She got that pistol on the table and she's smoking a cigarette. And Henry's like, you know, I can call the plant. We could try to get me to start earlier. We got a job. And he says, I'm proud of you. And she's like, I'm proud of you. And like you said last night, no more running. So what she's trying to say is I'm going to make the best of this because she knows how hard Henry worked to try to get this job. And he had to drive 5 days from North Carolina all the way to California. So this man is doing everything he can possible for his family. And we always know it's going to be road bumps. Now, we all have things that happen in life. Unfortunately for them, they have it right outside of their house. So I can only imagine dealing with that. It's time to take the kids to school, but Lucky looks out the window. She sees all them white folk out there. So what she tells the girls is, all right, get ready, y'all. We're going to go ahead and go to school. But they don't go through the front door. She doesn't want the kids to see all this nonsense and silliness. So they go out the back door, through the back gate. She'll find a way. I told you Lucky will find a way. She takes the girls out the back. She takes them to the bus stop and she stands there with her kids to make sure that her girls get on this bus safely and they get to go to school. Now, the white kids are all looking around like, what's going on here? And Lucky pretty much checks them all and says, what, we got a problem? And everybody, they just stop all that talking they was doing. Scared asses. Henry shows up to the job. He's trying to start earlier and he's telling the receptionist, I need to talk to such and such because it's my first day. And she's telling them, oh, the kitchen is upstairs. So she thinks that he's a janitor or a kitchen person, a chef, because he's black. And he's like, no. And she gets back on the phone. He's like, look, I'm here because I work here. I'm an engineer. So I told you, Henry has to be a highly qualified man. So there's a guy named Calvin. He's walking behind. He's like, oh, don't worry about it. I'll show him where it is. Because he knows how hard it is when you're trying to come in these buildings. Calvin starts talking to Henry. He's like, oh, you live out in Compton? I heard them white folks crazy out there. Because like I said, Compton originally was an all-white neighborhood. Yeah, it's not the Compton we know today, but it started off as an all-white neighborhood. And he's talking about There was another couple that lived over there, and they got drove crazy because of what the white people were doing to them every single day. And Henry's looking like, man, I'm not trying to hear that. I'm trying to make the best of it. I'd already seen some of this stuff, but I'm not going to admit to it. Henry and Calvin finally make it to his office. When he comes in, Henry looks around, and of course, he's the only black guy in this whole building that they work in. But he is an engineer, so he knows what he's doing. But it's going to be a hard adjustment. Now, I was only black at my shop when I was in the military. There's 23 white folk and more. I tell you, a tough time. Now it's just Gracie and Lucky there at the house. And it turns out Lucky used to be a teacher, and Gracie asked her, do you miss school? She said, yeah, I miss my students every day, but I have the smartest girl in the world right here. Now, Gracie's been reading a book, and it's a book about a lady named Miss Vera. And she says, oh, Miss Vera, she taught me a song, mama. So Lucky says, what kind of song is it? Gracie starts to sing a song that Miss Vera taught her, but it's the same song that the old lady was singing at the very beginning of the episode. So now things are starting to link together. Maybe that dream really happened. And Gracie, she's just singing it, but she's stomping and she's singing it angrily. And Lucky's like, hey, stop singing that song. Stop singing that song. She's having flashbacks of what happened. So something serious must have happened with that old white lady. But Gracie's singing it, and Lucky's like, hey, you don't need to be singing that. That's a bad song. Lucky's like, who taught you this song? And Gracie says, Miss Vera taught me. Miss Vera taught me, stupid. And at this point, Lucky loses it, and she slaps her daughter, but she doesn't mean anything bad about it. It just must have been so triggering that something happened with that old lady. And she hugs her daughter and says, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. And Gracie, she took it like a G. Oh, I know, Mom. Don't worry about it. This is some weird stuff, people. After that, Lucky goes in her room and she pulls out a box, and it has CE on it. Now, I'm not sure what the C is for, but the E is obviously Emery. But inside of it, it looks like a pillowcase or a blanket or something. And she just smells it, and she ends up taking it downstairs in the basement and places it in a little like cupboard type. I think the C may be her son's name, and something with the pillowcase may have happened. But what she does is put it downstairs in the basement, out of sight, out of mind, because you could tell that when she was smelling it, she was really comforting it. So it probably does have something to do with her son. They may have lost it, or he died or something. But she definitely has a solid connection with this pillowcase. You have to excuse me if you've watched any of my videos before. I do have a sense of humor. So what I'm about to break down is how these white folks, they're talking about colored people and how they act and what they think about them. So to me, it's funny because they're this ignorant, but this is really how it is. So they're having a meeting. The men are out in the garage talking about the Negroes, and then the inside is Betty and the women. And they're talking about, have you seen how tired she looks? And they're like, well, we can't tell. And then one of them is talking about, man, they sweat. They don't sweat. So they'll be leaving quickly. Like, come on, man. What kind of nonsense? So the men are in there trying to come up with plans on how to get him out, but they're also talking reckless. One guy was like, how old are they? I don't want my kid messing with them. And one guy was like, man, you can't tell. Hell, black people, they could be kids, but they range from 8 to 30. It can never, it's like, what the hell? But they're coming up with plans on how to get rid of the black folk up out of here. One of the ideas they heard from another gentleman that had black people move in the neighborhood. He said, hey, let's put thumbtacks in the driveway so they can get a flat tire every single morning. And Earl is like, let's do something a little bit worse than some thumbtacks. So these people have no idea what they're doing. Clark is the guy that came up with the thumbtack idea. So you can tell Clark really isn't with the nonsense that everybody else is. But unfortunately, upstairs or in the living room is his wife, Betty. And she wants to be the leader of this. And she's telling Clark, with you guys at work, it's going to be hard for us. I can't get these people out the neighborhood on my own. And Clark is like, let's just chill. I don't have no problem with them. But Betty is pushing it and saying how hard it's going to be to live with black people living across the street that aren't going to bother her. Oh man, you see it still to this day. Shoot, it's night 2. Henry like, man, forget this. I went to the job. Forget what's going on the outside. Inside this house, we gonna party. We gonna enjoy. So he got the girls in there dance. He dancing with Lucky. Hey, having the time of your life. That's what family is for. We gotta stick together. I love seeing a black family. In the middle of the night, Gracie wakes up and she's looking for their dog, Sergeant. So she's like, Sergeant? Sergeant? and she walks out into this dark hallway. Now, me personally, when I'm a kid, even in my house I lived in for years, I'm turning on a light or something, but this is 1950s and electricity was expensive. Off in the shadows, Gracie is looking and she sees a figure and she thinks it's her mom, but it don't look like it's her mom. And at the table is somebody sitting there and they have the dog collar for Sergeant and they set it on the table. Now this is where things start to get interesting. This mysterious creature begins to creep up on Gracie and you can't see the body, just the outline, but you can see the hand. Then all of a sudden, and whatever the hell this thing is, it starts choking the hell out of little Gracie. Now, this wasn't just a dream or anything. The next morning, Lucky goes in there and on Gracie's neck, she has a scar from being choked out. And Lucky, she screams and tells Henry somebody is in the house. Oh my goodness. Henry's running around the house, making sure the doors are locked. He ends up going downstairs because the door was open. And what do we have here? Sergeant is found dead, head cracked, turned backwards. And he's like, don't come down here. Oh my goodness. This is only day 2 in this house. Oh man, Lucky loses it. It's one thing to mess with her and Henry, but to mess with their kids, oh, it's another thing. She went and grabbed that gun and went outside, pointed at everybody, stay away from my house, because we don't know who did it. But somebody came in house 3011. And we're going to figure it out. Henry had to come outside and grab her and drag her back in the house because she had that thing. And boy, somebody could have said the wrong thing and it would have been pop, pop, pop. There you go. Episode 1 of the 10-part series. I'm going to give y'all 1 episode a day. Let me know what you think about the show. Now, it's a very interesting show. It's a lot of paranormal activity going on. I assume that's what it is. Or it may be people on the street. But I'll let y'all know in episode 2. Let me know what y'all think. I'm malevolent. If you like the content on the channel, hit the subscribe button. Definitely give me a like. We're on that road to 5,000 subscribers. I'm out.
Jimmy on the beat, boy.